Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging with these nerds.
Ted.
Marcus Ryan.
And today we're delving back into Unearthed Arcana for our part one. We're going to be talking Warlocks and Invocations.
Hey guys, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So here we are again, Monday for you folks watching this, Saturday for us folks recording it. Unearthed Arcana part one, we're going to be covering, yes, Warlock, Patrons plus Invocations, and then part two we will cover the Wizard tradition.
Later today.
Alright, so we jump right into the Hexblade, and we were talking, just before we hit record about how wonky this one is, because it says right here, you have made a pact with a powerful sentient magic weapon carved from the stuff of the Shadowfell. Well, does that mean you have the thing or not have the thing?
You aspire to have the thing.
They talk about Black Razor, which is a magic weapon that dates back to, earlier editions. So it's like, all right, well, do I have to have this thing to become this kind of warlock? Is this something that...
You're the only one that actually thought that, Ted. I just think it's weird.
Yeah. No, it's a little strange.
That your patron is a weapon, right? Yeah. So it's this legendary weapon that somehow is granting power to all these warlocks everywhere. But my real question is, right, if someone actually has it, do they know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. While they're sleeping, this Setchian weapon of theirs is off granting warlock packs.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very sneaky.
It's like, I am a demigod. And you just hear the echoes of the laughter as you wake up, and you're like, oh man, I had the weirdest dream last night.
So that part I find really odd, and like, how is it going to play? And like you said, Ted, how is it going to play out in your game?
Because
I mean, there's other ways to reskin this. Maybe it was like some great like warlord or something like that passed on and ascended. Some sort of Hercules figure but like a warlord version of that.
It's possible, but if just a little bit further down in that same first paragraph, it says these weapons grow stronger as they consume the life essence of their victims, which to me says, okay, this harkens back to the 3rd edition of Leveled Treasures. So I'm like, all right, so do you grant someone a magic...
Well, as you read on, you realize none of that happens unless you take invocations that kind of steer that direction.
There's nothing within the actual class build that harkens to that. But to me, that's what I'm reading in that flavor paragraph of, okay, well...
Yeah, but it's about a weapon that has nothing to do with you other than that's your patron.
Yeah.
That is your fiend. That is your Cthulhu.
That's your Fae.
That's your Fae. Yeah. That's all it is. Read no further, Ted.
Yeah.
You're going to hurt your brain.
It's a chaotic neutral thing that wants you to kill things.
Probably. Much,
probably.
I do like the expanded spell list. I like the fact that they get all the smites.
Yeah. And shield, which... If I were doing this because it's like, oh, you have this weapon that's like specially manifested, it'd be like a parry or something like that, I would imagine. Just because like shield, when I saw it, I was like, well, that's a little weird. I mean, it could be a Shadowfell shield, but I would probably skin it as the player just parrying the blows is what happens for that round.
I don't know. I just feel like anything driven by spells for a warlock is fairly worthless anyway.
That's true. It happens when it's... Hey, but out of spells you could possibly have, having a shield spell in your back pocket, not a bad thing. So
it's a trap, right? You're going to use it. You're going to get great armor class for a round. You're going to stop an attack, maybe. Then you're like, oh, fuck, I only have one. I've already hexed, so I have no spells left today until I take my short rest.
It is a distinct possibility.
But, if, I don't know, there could be situations that it might become...
Shield is always a good spell.
Like, hey, if a fire giant, is going to hit you... dropping that shield up at just the right moment might be the best course of action. And if they hit you twice, absolutely.
There's moments of life or death, and it just might be worthwhile.
Or you might realize you're a warlock, and you're like, oh, fuck, I used all my spells already.
Yeah,
this is round 3, I'm out of spells.
Why did I pick Pact of the Blade and go up and fight things? But at least you get some access to some armor, and I believe shields, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so armor and shields makes you a lot medium armor, makes you a little bit less squishy. I wouldn't say a lot, but hey, if you get, if you have a +2 to your dex, you don't really need much strength, so that's great because you can use your charisma, as we'll get into later. Yep. You can throw in the shield, so that's a +4, and then you have your armor. What I think the best you can get a 14, 15. Yeah, so you can have a 19 AC as a warlock, not bad.
And you're also 1 feet away from heavy armor.
Yeah, and what is it? Shield's a +5, right? So 24 AC in one instance. All right, golden
for one round.
Yeah. That's right.
So, as Ryan was saying, Hex Warrior, 1st level, you gain proficiency with medium armor, shields, martial weapons, And you can be like, all right, forget that strength or dex nonsense. I'm just going to attack with my charisma.
Yeah.
Well, the weird thing though is that they're based around. The Hexwearer is based around using a one-handed weapon for the most part. I think actually, some of their
all
abilities...
of the benefits are pretty much. Well, I mean, so I think that the charisma thing is distinctly tied to that. I think the other ones, it doesn't matter. But it's like you want to be using a one-handed weapon. It's just like, what has the best D damage for a one-handed weapon? Later on, there's like one invocation. It's like, oh, it needs to be a greatsword. So you lose that benefit of being able to attack with your like ability, which, I mean, really, out and out, it makes you. This is like, hey, play Pact of the Blade or you're an idiot, essentially. You have to do Pact of the Blade with a Hexblade.
Yeah, it's what makes the most sense. So then you get onto your Hexblade's Curse, which I think this is a really cool ability.
Yeah.
There's only a couple issues I saw with it when I was reading. Then they have a couple ways of fixing it.
Yeah.
But it's going to require a lot of resource investment. So the thing that I didn't like about the Hexblade Curse is the fact that, unlike Hex or Hunter's Mark,
You can't switch targets.
You can't switch targets. Right. You get it. Once per short rest, long rest. You pick somebody, you hate them so much, you curse them, and then cool things happen.
Well, that being said, most of the Warlock's capabilities are tied to getting short rests anyway, and unless your DM's a dick, or maybe just doing these like resource drain encounters or whatever, you can usually get 3 short rests within the span of a day.
Maybe in your game.
Yeah.
I feel like one, absolutely
So,
reasonable.
speaking of dick DM...
1, absolutely reasonable. 2, possible. 3 seems a little outrageous to me. 3 hours of just sitting there resting.
And then also, too, in our games, how many encounters do we ever have back-to-back? We have, like, 1 or 2 fights in a day.
We don't do the serious dungeon crawls
and stuff like that.
So,
I'm just glad you're not my employee. Fucking 3 hours a day breaks out of the 8-hour workday. Jesus Christ. You get your work done.
So it requires a bonus action, but no spell slot expenditure to curse something. You get a bonus to damage equal to your proficiency bonus. Always nice. So now that to hit and damage winds up actually working.
And by the way, fuck you, champion. Next ability.
Next ability, you can crit on a 19 plus if you're attacking the person that is cursed. Now, mind you, you still get this at first level.
Yeah.
And if your cursed target dies, you regain hit points equal to your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier. And I think that's the saving grace, in my opinion, of only being able to do it once per rest, is that you can actually regain those hit points. If you didn't die, if you didn't lose any hit points, well, it's a lost situation. But it's a way to mitigate that. Well, I don't have a lot of hit points because I'm a warlock.
And I go into the thick of things.
And I go into the thick of it. Yeah. I don't have the armor class that the fighter has, but I can recoup some of that by... You won't be
hexing people willy-nilly, that's for sure. You definitely want to be hexing the guy, right? Yeah. The big bad, whoever's in charge, the solo monster. That's what this ability is for, in my opinion. You encounter a squad of goblins, you're like, no, Eldritch Blast, I'm not even bothered. You will not even dirty my blade. Shadow Blade or Shadow Hound is the next ability at 6th level. Very thematic.
I didn't really think so. I was like, why is it going to be
very
a dog?
Useless?
Yeah, I was going to agree with Ryan. I don't think it fits.
Why is it got to be a dog? I mean, it could be a dog, but it doesn't have to be. Like, it could be some sort of like ally or something, or some manifestation of the weapon that like had a shadow version.
Yeah, I guess the hound part is weird, but like just like shadow something would work is just as easily as the hound.
Right.
I am actually less concerned with that than the fact that and DFC have brought this up in when he reviewed it, was the fact that you get to ignore cover for half and 3/4. Mm-hmm. Yeah. With a melee weapon. How often does that come up?
To my knowledge,
if somebody's using, like, say, going against a wall or something or a half wall or something like that, fighting from them, I guess you have cover from one another kind of thing. So if you use tactical combat in your game versus theater of the mind, then it could come up.
It could. But I would say over the 20 plus years we've been playing this game, cover and melee has come up so freaking rare to make this ability virtually useless.
I actually, in my Adventure League game, when we were playing on the cruise, it actually did come up.
Cover and melee?
Yes.
Oh, because you used the table.
Because we were using the table.
So if you would have been fighting the Hexblade, he would have been able to attack you with ease.
Yes.
You would have been screwed. That's right.
I charged the guy with the table. The table then, fell at our feet, and we granted each other, a little bit of cover.
There we are. So instance observed.
There might be times where you have to create those benefits, and they're not gonna be frequent, but there's other benefits within the Shadow Hound that you can be able to use if you want. I mean, like if you're playing a game where you're trailing somebody, how perfect is that?
So all that to be said, I would have much rather have seen an ability that gives you extra usages of your hex capability versus that 6th level ability. Like it gives you one additional use for sure, so it would like slowly extend out what you'd get.
Well, you do. It just happens later.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other cool thing is you automatically know where that person is.
Right.
They cannot hide from you.
Right. Well, the other situation is in most classes there's some kind of ribbon ability within the archetype, and that's their
Yeah, it's more or less it.
So, 10th level, you get Armor of Hexes. Your hex grows more powerful if the target cursed by your Hexblade hits you with an attack roll. Roll a d6 on a 4+. He missed.
So the choice of the d6 is a little odd. Like I would think a d20 or a 50 percentile or something, but the d6 is just I don't know. It's like an odd choice of a die to determine this.
The recharge ability works off the D6. I guess that's the logic. Again, this class again suffers, or this archetype suffers from the same thing as the Phoenix sorcery, in the sense that everything is tied to this one ability, and you don't get to use it all that often.
Until you get the 14th level,
Yeah.
which is when you can hex as much as you like, and
You just can't maintain 2 of them at once. Is
correct. If you hex and if you curse a new person, your first one ends. So that's the one's bonus action on you. Kill.
It's
Bonus
not as
action on
much as you
kill.
want. Again, you can use it again without. So, and the duration still applies. So it's still you
still
you
that
get to
1
switch
minute.
it.
Okay. All right. My apologies.
That's my interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, starting at 14th level, you can use your Hexblade curse again without resting, but when you apply it to a new target, curse immediately ends on the previous target. Maybe it's not.
It's a little ambiguously written. Like it could be that you can just use it, or it could be that you essentially it's saying, hey, you get a second use of this. I
mean,
I know. I mean, in a fight, you are probably going to get to use it twice because you're probably going to kill the person in under a minute.
Because fights don't last 10 rounds.
Yeah.
So.
It's rare.
Now, but then again, if it is actually literally, hey, keep using it as often as you want, you just can't have it on 2 targets. That's a huge difference, and it's also a little bit of a problem later on. Maybe not, depending on how you want to do it, because there's an invocation resource that I see that if you're a Hexblade, you're absolutely going to want to take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I might be confusing the wording from this ability with the wording in that actual
So
invocation.
I think we're going to need a sage advice on this one.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Good
we'll
clarification.
revisit that one and see, but yeah.
All right, so then we move on to the Raven Queen. We get some, interesting.
The spell choices is cool.
Yes, interesting spell choices, because this is the Raven Queen is the one who wants the things to die. This is the one that
pretty
hates the undead. That
I kind of find it weird. Like, I feel like things should have like a cleric or they should have a warlock, but they shouldn't have both.
It was kind of funny to see that choice. And if you're a fan of Critical Role, then you obviously know about Vax. Or is it Vex? I think it's Vax, who's now a paladin of the Raven Queen. But yeah, like it's kind of an interesting discussion with that. So the solid spell choice, False Life, is always a great thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
No one, although it is funny, something that hates undead to like give you extra hit points and stuff. That's kind of
Well,
dramatic.
when you read the description, it's like you really hate sentient undead, but zombie and skeletons, you're like, eh.
Automatons.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get the Sentinel Raven. So you get a little bird that comes in, sits on your shoulder, gives you a bonus to your Wisdom perception checks equal to your Charisma modifier. There's some weird word choices in here that I couldn't completely understand, so I'll see what your guys' interpretations. While perched on your shoulder, the Raven can't be targeted by any attack or other harmful effect. Only you can cast spells on it. It can't take damage, and it is incapacitated.
people aren't going to wipe it out. It can't, if it's on your shoulder, people literally can't do anything to it.
Yeah, it's basically a stuffed raven on your shoulder.
Yeah,
Okay.
That can't be targeted.
It's up your butt, essentially, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, it's basically second edition familiar. You know, everyone took the toad. You never saw the toad.
Third edition.
Or third edition.
Because you took the toad for the hit points, and sometimes you licked it, maybe.
And according to Dave, you shoved it up your butt because it never being seen.
Yeah, was it third edition? Was it where it was very bad?
Third when they had the bonuses for various familiars, yeah.
No, it had the bonuses, but where it was really bad for the familiar to die.
Yeah.
Second edition, I think you lost
Most
XP.
of the editions it was bad when the familiar died, and yeah, so
You're taking the bullet for the familiar because it's so bad when it dies.
So you can see through the raven's eyes if it's within 100 feet of you. In combat, you roll initiative separately, which I can't stand that mechanic. Go on. If you have a character in the game, all your stuff goes on your turn. I can't. Sorry, that's another thing.
So it is funny. Like, this is pretty, like, I mean, you could either try to be like the master of the creatures type of thing and take Pact of the Chains, but this is saying, yeah, like, this is basically Pact of the Chains without Pact of the Chains.
Right.
So it's kind of funny to see the Pact step over the...
I like the Raven,
Yeah.
but I think 100 feet is useless.
Yeah.
100 feet, you're like, oh, you mean over there?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like I can see 100 feet. Like, unless you're inside of a building and there's corners, pointless. Listen, I work in an industry where we deal with distances a lot. 100 feet is nothing. It should be a mile or nothing.
Well, no, it can awaken you as a bonus action.
Well, no. He's talking about for this thing.
Oh, yeah.
I feel that there are times that you could use that to spy on something that you're close to without actually having to get
make
you any
it. But
closer.
let's make it a mile.
100 feet.
Let's
really-
make it a mile, because here's the thing. There's another wizard archetype that can cast spells out to a mile. So why don't we give the fucking Raven a mile? Give him an inch. Give him a mile.
We'll get to that one later.
The other stuff is really good though. Like they can awaken you as a bonus action,
and it's always awake.
It makes you super observant. Now, if we go back to the eyes build, and obviously, being able to have this Raven makes you even better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, if it dies, which if it leaves your shoulder, it's just a Raven.
It's probably gonna get killed.
It's gonna get killed.
Yeah.
But when you
Not in Ted's game, he would never kill your Raven.
when it finishes a short or a long rest, you can just be like, "Hey, come here," and it reappears.
I would fucking kill your Raven every time, though.
Every time.
So at sixth level, you get the soul of the Raven. When it's on your shoulder, you can merge with the Raven and kind of then go about being a Raven.
So that ability is very meh. It's the most meh ability I think on this whole Unearthed.
Well, it doubly makes your ability to
send it to scout kind of worthless.
Well, not really. I mean, you can do the scouting.
I think
your ability to send it to scout was already worthless.
You know what I think it does is it mitigates that within 100 feet now. So
Yeah.
you got a ribbon ability to get rid of the bullshit ability.
It's a ribbon ability. They all have one. I don't think it's terrible for a ribbon ability.
I think there's less ribbon stuff about the Hexblade than there is, say, about this Raven Queen ability.
I don't know. The Hound was pretty ribbony, and the fact that you can only use it.
There's a mechanical benefit. There is something that can negate a thing, an instance that could occur.
All right, you play it.
All right, so 10th level, you get Raven Shield. This is a awesome blessing from your Raven Queen. You get advantage on death saving throws, immunity to the frightened condition, and resistance to necrotic damage. That's a lot for one little bump.
They're not going to come up that often, though.
Yeah, and it's thematic. It's good. It works.
But it's not bad. Death saves, having advantage on that, really good. There's not a ton of things that do that in the game for you. Immunity to frightened condition, good. You don't have to worry about that.
Dragon Fear and other things are terrible. So especially because you're probably not going to have a great wisdom saving throw. So that's going to be handy.
We move on to 14th level, the Queen's Right Hand. You can channel the Raven Queen's power to slay a creature. You can cast Finger of Death without expending a spell slot. And you can use it once.
Basically once a
rest.
day. Yeah, once per day.
Boom!
So it's a freebie.
It's an extra casting. It's one of the better spells in the game. What's more fun than dropping your enemies and turning them into zombies?
Yeah, outside of extending the Raven thing to a mile and thus making the merging with your bird not worthwhile at all, unless you need to hide. It's a pretty okay build. But we get into the Eldritch Invocations.
All right, now there are quite a lot of them. Are we going to touch on all of them, or do we want to talk about our favorites?
Specifics, maybe.
So we got almost 3 full pages of invocations.
So there's some kind of wonky things. There's some things that I'm almost like, why'd they have to make it a specific patron? Because some of them I'm like, well, really, if you reskin it, it could be any of them. You just reflavor what that is.
All right, so Chronicle of the Raven Queen is really cool because it actually allows you to take a regular spell and essentially get the ritual version of it without actually using ritual time or whatever have you. I think it's a really, really cool thing that I would do, and you get to record that information in your book in blood, totally thematic with that particular. Patron.
I don't know if I would use one of my invocations for that, just because you only get so many. But it's definitely kind of a cool ability if that's a theme you're going for.
Yeah, I mean, I had a whole rant prepared about Speak with Dead being a ritual, but it's not actually a ritual. So we can ixnay on that, eh? So there's the improved pact weapon. I almost feel like I want that to be like a menu of options. Like, basically it says you can choose this ability up to 3 times, and like based on the numbers of times you take it, like you can infuse energy into your weapon or the bonuses. Because like, I'm sorry, but if my Pact of the Blade Warlock, I'm running the game hypothetically, and they get a magic item, I'll let them imbue some of their Warlock essence into it, especially if they're a Hexblade, where they have this divine province over blades.
Right.
Like, why the F do they not get to, like, improve an already magical weapon? Yeah, like, you can maybe choose an energy type and add a d6 of that, or maybe make it a +1 better.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I would basically say, yeah, you get flexibility of how you want your weapon to be structured, and you just take this invocation 3 times, which, how many invocations do you get? Like maybe 9 by the end of it? So 12 at best by 20th level?
Right.
There's that. I mean, although there is, in an essence, they do add quite a few invocations that kind of do that, though, for your spells, where you get to add bonus damage, and it's a lot of damage, too.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's basically a Paladin Smite, in a way.
it's better than that. I mean, it's 2d8 per spell level.
Yeah.
Well, eventually.
Yeah, but
spells...
who's got, unless you're getting lots of short rests, who's got a very limited spellcasting?
Well, that's exactly you get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I mean, and they max out a 4th level spells or 5th. So a 5th 10d8 when you smack something.
So in that, we'll just bring up one of those, Cursebringer, which is specifically oriented towards Pact of the Blade and Hexblade. I think all of them are Pact of the Blade features, but they veer into different patrons and things like that. This is interesting because it specifically calls out the weapon being a greatsword, which means when you go back and look at Hexblade, you lose your charisma bonus. But it does some interesting things about you can immediately change the target of the curse to a different creature, which was a problem of the feature. So it gives you that with taking that invocation, that you get an extra use of the Hexblade hex, and then you get the same sort of like Uber Smite ability that you do 2d8 points of damage per spell level of the spell you expend, and the speed of the creature is dropped to 0. So that's kind of neat, and a lot of bang for your buck in this one invocation.
What it's doing is it's saying, okay, you can choose to build a charisma-based build or a strength-based build.
Yeah.
And because, let's face it, really, depending on how you're using your Warlock abilities, charisma may not even be a factor.
Yeah. Right.
Like, it seems like it should, but
very marginal, yeah.
But if you're not hitting things using your charisma bonus, and if you're not making things make saving throws, then it's a moot point.
Yeah, you could have like a 12 charisma and be fine about it.
Yeah,
or 14.
It does offer that option. And there's several of these that basically say, oh, you're a Pact Blade, well, now it's better. 2d8 per spell slot level you use. And the nice thing about a Warlock is you only have 1 level of spell slot.
Right.
The maximum.
Yeah, it always is. It's in the max extreme. So I love a lot of the Fiend Pact specific ones. Like, some of those are super thematic, and I'm like, yeah, that probably should be Fiend. But like, there's a couple I would love to call out. Well, actually, no. There's the Fiend, and then there's a Fae. So Kiss of Mephistopheles, like, I don't know. This is a little crazy to be able to drop a fireball whenever as a bonus action. which essentially, when you hit a creature with a cantrip, you can cast Fireball as a bonus action. You do drop a spell slot.
Yeah, you do have to actually use your spell slot.
That is, I guess that's a little bit of a thing.
It's basically a very specific quicken spell.
Yeah, and you have to be 5th level, which, I mean, you're going to be 5th level doing that anyway. But it's pretty badass to just... Yes. I think it's fantastic. Frost Lance. I want to call that out because it's also an ability that piggybacks off of your Eldritch Blast and its Archfey. I think it's a little goofy that it does not a single point of cold damage, but it's called Frost Lance, and it reduces their speed. Like, why doesn't it change the damage to cold? Or you can maybe make one die of that D10 become cold or something. But it's just like, it's Frost Lance minus frost.
Yeah, so the name is a bit odd because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Other than the fact, it could have been Slow Lance, right? Instead, or
something like
not move so fast, Lance.
Yeah. So I've actually got a Warlock in a game that I'm playing outside of the typical Nerdarchy group.
You're cheating on us.
It's been known about, and we're actually haven't met in a while. We took a winter break, and we're actually meeting again tomorrow. So this will come up Monday. So I met yesterday, and I had to level up the character, and it's like, oh, I finally get access to Invocations, and since he's a Fey Pact, it's like, oh, Green Lord's Gift. This one is anytime you're recovering hit points, you just get it maximized. So I thought that was fantastic.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I actually went with that one as my first invocation.
You're going to get a lot of bang for your buck on this one. Yeah. In general, whether it's you're expending healing hit die, you're getting healed in combat, any ability with a variable just maxes.
Yes.
It's not a bad one at all.
Whenever you regain hit points, you treat any dice roll to determine the hit points you regain as having rolled their maximum value. So I'm like, yep, I'm good with that one.
Another one that is worth calling out too, just because it's a very, it's an exception to the rules, and that is Moonbow. Being able to actually create a ranged weapon with your pack. So you get to create a bow. It creates the arrows. You also get that extra effect of, hey, I want to hit really hard, and now I can do it from like 600 feet away with it.
So the other one that's in here is Path of the Seeker. Where is the Seeker patron?
UA.
In the UA, okay.
It's one of the UA, yeah. That one, it calls that out, like in the very beginning in the invocations, that it is using that the Seeker one is there. It's actually a question that came up quite often in Sage Advice.
So that's the thing is with the Path of the Seeker, I felt like is another one of those that didn't really have to be specific to a patron, because the way it's described, you ignore difficult terrain and you advantage on all checks to escape grapple, manacles, or bindings, and advantage on saving throws against being paralyzed, right? I don't know, great old one, you could turn into like sludge or a bunch of creepy crawlies. With demons or devils, Pact of the Fiend. There was another thing.
Smoke,
Or you could turn into bugs with that too. With Fae, you could also turn into like leaves or something. Like all these things, there's a way to skin it and flare it to any patron to sound cool.
Well, it's one of those things. If you think that there's something that's in here, I mean, this is all playtest material anyway, and your GM has to approve it. So if there's something that you feel fits the character build that you want to do, you could just be like, hey, can I flavor this as X and use this?
Can I playtest it to see if this breaks my game or not?
Yeah. Well, and that being said, like there are so many that the general concepts of the invocations, there's a lot of them that I love a lot. I would just actually get a little less specific in regards to patron on some of them.
There's a couple things here. One, I like the fact that they gave so many more invocations. Now they're very, very much geared towards your Packblade, and again, the Warlock being the one-trick pony of Eldritch Blast. But at least now, like, the one-trick pony, like, we can have a bunch of different ponies running around.
Yeah, well,
not the same pony.
So, pointing out one that is quite a bit different, the Cloak of Beelzebul, that basically says that, as a bonus action, I think it is, you can just have a swarm of carnivorous flies swarming around you, that they just deal your charisma modifier damage within, I think, 10 feet of you. So, like, just eating away at things that are around you. That's a great passive ability to have, and it's creepy as fuck. Kind of reminds me of Fables when you start to go the evil route and you're a spellcaster.
You get advantage on charisma checks for Intimidate with the Cloak of Beelzebub.
Everything else, it's just icky, so you have disadvantage.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so there's a handful of cool ones that don't actually, revolve around your pack blade or your Eldritch Blast. So it gives you a couple more options, but overall it's definitely, this is so much more needed for the Warlock than the actual patrons. Like we've got a ton of those floating around, and they can even be reskinned and changed a little bit for a different feel. But when you get down to it, all your Warlocks start looking the same after a while, because they all have one go-to. One, you go, okay, Pack Blade, because it sounds cool, and then what happens is you start getting into melee and go, oh, this is not really a good place for a Warlock to be.
It becomes a trap.
I'm too squishy, and my abilities at fighting don't get that much better. This will add some more stuff to it to make it more viable.
Although that being said, like the Hexblade patron, usually helpful for that too.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. But for the most part, with most spellcasters, when you go Gish, what you'd start learning really quickly is usually the spell casting part is better than the martial part anyway, and you want to be out of melee. It's just not a good place to be.
Being close to things that could hurt you might hurt you.
Yeah. Now with the Warlock, neither is particularly great, because you don't have that many spells to use. At your apex, you've got 4. Plus, the higher level spells, but you were talking when you get way up there compared to the other spellcasters. So what do? You Eldritch Blast, and you Eldritch Blast, and you Eldritch Blast.
Hard and fast.
Yeah, so that's the problem with the Warlock. It's a super cool class. It's going to be popular it's probably going to stay popular, but I feel like, once you've played one Warlock, it's almost like you've played them all.
Yeah, but with this diversity, it makes them a little more viable. So guys, tell us about your favorite invocations down in the comments below. I know there's so many that I liked an awful lot. There's like 20 of them. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over on Facebook.
Or you can hang out with us over on Nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.